What's going on, guys? This is Tech Habit Weekly, episode 22. This is March 26, 2014. Really quick, we do apologize for missing last week. Once again, real life sets in, college students and work, and it's not what we prefer, but it's just what happens. But here we are back today, though, and we have a ton of stuff to cover today. I am wearing an Apple shirt, but believe me, we have a ton of non-Apple stuff today. So for those of you guys that like a little bit of variety, today we have that for you. So joining me, as usual, Mr. Dante Casey Nightmare Harris. Definitely check him out on YouTube. Just recently got a YouTube channel, and Dante, just really quick before we get into the show, go ahead and discuss what's coming on your channel.
Oh, basically, there's a lot of different tutorials, some upgrades that I've been doing, especially to my 12-core Mac Pro. And this is some sought-after material because a lot of people are a little scared to upgrade their Mac Pros because of how expensive some of the pieces are and just not having the exact know-how. So I'm trying to specialize in showing people exactly hands-on that you can do these upgrades because I'm taking the risk myself, even doing this to my Mac Pro. So I've got a few videos on that. There's different unboxing. I've got some phone cases and things that are coming out, some things that you guys can look for that's actually going to work for you and things that are going to work well. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's pretty laid back, and I just want people to just know and learn from it and not have it be so stale, like a lot of tutorials are. So definitely check me out. My YouTube channel is Dante D Harris on youtube.com, and it's going to be nice. And of course, you guys can check me out here on this podcast, Tech Habit Weekly, with Bob. And yeah, it's going to be nice. It's going to be real fun, and it's going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy and get some good knowledge out of it from those videos. So.
Awesome. So yeah, go ahead and definitely check out Dante's YouTube channel. Tons of great stuff coming there. Tons of great stuff already on there. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. So with that said, nice little plug there for you. We're going to go ahead and get into the show. And like I said, we have quite the variety today of different tech stories. We have some Google stuff. The HTC One M8 recently came out, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. We have a couple, trickle of Apple stories in there, but those are just going to be some quick little stories for you guys. So without further ado, Dante, go ahead and kick us off with the first story we have for you guys today about Google's Android Wear being announced.
Yes, as people may or may not know, the wearable scene in the tech community today is huge. It seems like ever since there were some different leaks about Apple acquiring some domains and some different patents, which is allegedly the iWatch, a lot of these different technology has been coming out, like the Pebble Watch and Galaxy Gear and things like that. Well, Google's smartwatch here is called Android Wear, and honestly, from the videos that I've seen, it looks really, really good. And just being able to put that technology of basically having your cell phone and basically a mobile assistant in a wearable device seemed like a kind of hard concept to grasp because I'm so visual. I'm like, okay, well, you got to give me something that this thing can do besides what a cell phone can do that will make me want to spend the amount of money that this thing costs to buy it. Well, with this particular acquisition, it looks very, very nice. And we have a video that we can show here of this particular watch in use and just kind of some of the concepts that they have here. And we'll get to roll that video.
Yeah, it definitely looks to be something interesting. A lot of people are rumoring that, maybe Apple's going to be coming out with some kind of a smartwatch or something. And, frankly, I'm not the kind of person that wears watches. I haven't for the past, I'm 22. I don't think I wore a watch since I was like 8. It's been a long time since I've worn a watch. So it'd be weird for me to kind of get back into wearing a watch. But this definitely does have a lot of convenient things. There are plenty of times where, I just want to see what time it is, and, I really don't want to have to dig my phone out of my pocket, or, even just like basic little controls like switch that song or, something like that. I could definitely see how it would be convenient to have something like that. But based off this, Dante, do you see yourself, buying something like this, like a smartwatch? Or do you think maybe that if you'd wait for like an Apple version, or would you go ahead and try the Google version?
Honestly, I was so skeptical at first because of just basically the same reason as you just stated earlier is basically I haven't worn a watch in so long, a watch that I actually paid attention to anyway, that this almost seems like something that I wouldn't want to do initially, but from the video, and you can see where the guy had the how long his meeting was going to be, and the runner about how long the jog was going to be, and different things like that. I could actually see myself using something like that. Now, honestly, it would have to be a little more perks to it besides those things, and I'm just still not that convinced yet because basically being able to buy something like that you don't already have in your phone is going to be kind of a stretch. But I could definitely see these type of technologies being used in people who, are runners and fitness experts and or just business experts or that are always on the go and in different areas and locations that maybe they can't always be on the phone, or they're always on their phone and it'd be nice to go, hey, that meeting's in 5 minutes, instead of having to look back and check everything and trying to stay on the phone and things like that. So that I can definitely see in the future. To me, it has to be something that gears towards myself personally, and to me, it's just not there yet for me yet. But other people there, I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that are ranting and raving over these type of technologies and can't wait for this to actually hit the streets. But honestly, the design of it actually looks really, really good, and I think this is something that's actually going to be a force to be reckoned with, because I've seen that there's actually different watch styles to it, and it seems like they're being more focused to almost like an original watch, of how it actually looks and feels. I would hope that it doesn't weigh very much, because, you don't want to feel like maybe just have your phone or something just tethered to your wrist or something like that. But of course, weight comes with having hardware embedded into the actual design and the casing of it to make this better for you. And then you got to think of little factors like heat, because there is an actual touchable LCD screen with a digitizer. You have to think about something like that, that under heavy load or something, what's the maximum heat output? Is it going to be something that just, is just a little warm, or is it going to be something that actually is going to be bothersome? I mean, those are some of the questions we have to raise. But according to Google, the company has already started working with HTC, LG, Motorola, and Samsung, as well as the Fossil Group, to bring these smartwatches later this year. And the chip maker Broadcom, who makes a lot of chips. I mean, I'm talking, Apple's Wi-Fi, things like that, a bunch of different chips, even for cell phones and whatnot. They've even got some different affiliations with them to get them right on board, like Imagination, Intel, MediaTek, and they're all coming on board to try to fund this project and get some things off the ground. And with those names, and these are reputable names out here in the tech industry, I can definitely see something happening with this that's going to honestly take it to another level, because you took me as a complete skeptic and I was like, nope, never do it. Now I'm kind of scratching my head about it. So what do you think, Bob?
Me personally, I mean, it does look like something that I would definitely like to try. Whether I would purchase it right away or not is something I'd have to, try it first, try before I buy or something. But I'm just kind of thinking right now, it makes a lot more sense that Google would do something like this than Apple, because Google has Google Now, and that's basically what this watch does: is put Google Now on your wrist. And right now, Google Now, I guess I was watching Mac Break a couple weeks ago. I forget what episode it was, but I think it was Rene Ritchie. He made a very good analogy in that. Siri is basically kind of like an assistant. You kind of have to tell her to do stuff, whereas Google Now is kind of like the valet or the chauffeur that, he already does everything for you behind the scenes. So you put your coat on, you already have your passport in your pocket. It kind of predicts what you're going to want to do, and that's the information this has. I mean, there's in the little video it showed, people going to the beach and saying, "Oh, there's a jellyfish warning, watch out." The user didn't ask for that information, but Google based, where you are, look for things in that area. Right now, Siri doesn't do that. Siri doesn't do anything without you asking her to do it first. And so right now on a watch, I'm not exactly sure what kind of functionality that would bring. You having to actually ask your watch to do stuff other than maybe tell you the time, or, maybe change to the next song or something. But Google Now definitely has a lot more functionality on something like a wristwatch than Siri does. Apple might be updating that, because even right now in iOS 7, when you pull down Notification Center, it can, kind of, because for example, I've been going down to Pittsburgh lately on the weekends, and so, without asking it to do this, whenever it's Saturday or something, and I'm not in Pittsburgh, I'll pull down and it'll say, 2 hours and however long to get to Pittsburgh. I didn't ask for that information. It just kind of predicted that, hey, it's a weekend. Why are you not in Pittsburgh? Kind of a thing. So I think Apple is definitely looking to get more Google Now functionality, but at the moment, it's something that Google would definitely have the advantage on, just because Siri, you have to ask her to do anything. Well, I guess it could be a him now, but you have to ask Siri to do anything before I really kind of return that information. So something that definitely separates it. Like you said, other companies like HTC and all these other, Android manufacturers are getting on board with it. That's good. Whereas, iPhone would just be Apple. They're the only ones that could get on board with it. So, for me, like I said, whether I'd buy this or not, especially being an Apple guy, not having an Android phone to have it, intertwine with or anything, it's really hard to say. But Dante, if you were to just kind of go out to your local, I don't know, Best Buy, or want to buy it online, how much do you think they could get away, pricing something like this at?
Oh, see, that's where the trick comes in. I mean, because this is wearable technology, you have to think of basically what it is being smashed down into a consumable wearable device. Honestly, for something that can give you the functionality and maybe the situational awareness, like you were saying with the whole jellyfish alert, something like that. I mean, you have to charge, more than $99, I'm sure. But honestly, I think to keep, you know, things in a perspective where people can actually put a nice number and go, okay, that makes sense. It's because it's not for your everyday person. You're not just picking this up like, a stick of gum or anything. And since I don't know the store's capacity and, basically what it can do yet, I would say maybe 149.99 to about 199.99 should be the price for this because of the technology, because it needs to be. I mean, you got to realize how many people would use something like this, especially runners. I mean, will runners sweat? Is it water resistant? Is it, I mean, there's a lot of things that we still aren't quite sure, of yet. So honestly, I think that'd be a good range to stay in for all the functionalities and properties that it's going to actually have with that type of wearable tech.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd say that's about what I'd pay for a watch. I mean, I'm not going to go spend, 500 bucks on a watch.
Right.
I'm just not. So
Yeah.
it has to remain under a certain point and still have functionality, which is it's difficult to do. But I mean, we'll just have to see. But I guess the last question I have for you, Dante, on this topic is, say, everyone kind of is expecting Apple to do, a smartwatch, but if they don't, what exactly do you think will happen to this market? Do you think Apple is kind of leaving Google in the dust and it's a market that will eventually kind of fade away, or is it going to be something that Apple regrets not getting into?
Well, it could go one of two directions. I mean, we've seen this a lot with technology where a lot of things sound like a great idea and just pretty much tanked. And basically, it's going to go just as far as the minds of the developers. I mean, when you get people like Google who are involved, who, of course, Google's a massive company with tons of tech minds and tech gurus and people that I would love to just, talk to over a cup of coffee or something just to pick their brains about certain ideas that they have with their technologies. It basically, if Apple doesn't get into this, I feel like that there's going to be some key, you know, departments and key things of innovation that are actually going to be lacking, because it seems like Apple seems to go towards that kind of out of the box, realm when it comes to certain things. And that's why like certain things like MacBooks and iPads and whatnot last so long and the resale value is so high, is because some of the things that they can do when they launch further out. A lot of times when you get their technology, it's here and you think it can only do this, and just a simple software update throws it completely further because they already planned for some things, to kind of give you incremental updates as they roll out the bugs and things to try to get it more user friendly and better functionality for its consumers. So if Google does it, I mean, if Google does the right thing, they can take off and just take this as high they want as they want to go. But if Apple doesn't, I think they'll lack, because you need that competition. Apple and Google, it's always that close one and two, one and two, one and two, and the one company always makes the other company better because now you got something to fight for. So we'll definitely see what happens. I mean, but like you said and I said, I'm just not. I can't really see myself yet, but honestly, it's like I said, it's making me kind of and think
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah, it's definitely kind of intriguing to me. And
yeah.
I guess another example, I guess, to what you were saying about how you get a device and you think at first it can only do this, but then it's a simple software update can make it do so much more. A great example of that was the first iPhone, how limited it was, but then all of
Oh
a sudden the
wow.
App Store appeared.
Yep.
All it took was a 2.0 update, and boom, all of a sudden we have so much different functionality we can get out of a phone. When in reality, the first thing we had a black wallpaper, nothing.
Yep.
We had, a YouTube app, a calendar app, a maps app, a phone app, a notes app, a couple other things, and that was it. And so this is a very similar story that, this is probably just the tip of the iceberg in an industry like this. Whether Apple gets into it or not, and if they don't, whether they regret it or not, really remains to be seen. But that's what's fascinating about technology. It's really impossible to predict, where something is going to end because, as you said, it's all in the mind of the developers as to how far or, what makes it to market, what doesn't, and ultimately whether something is a massive success or just a complete failure. So we're going to jump into the next story here, which is also on the same exact lines here of smartwatches. Motorola introduces the Motorola 360 smartwatch. Now, Dante, what exactly is this, and what makes it, a bit different from the last story we just talked about?
Now, what makes this particular watch a little different is kind of, to me, is some of the mystery behind this particular watch. And when you actually go in between this article and see what's going on, it makes you think they're just coming out with with some mechanical watch, just another watch, just tells time. That's what it looks like. That's what the still pictures are. But I can tell you one thing. I've been kind of critical on Motorola in the past because of their quality and products and things that have happened, different acquisitions, people taking them, people want to sell it, So I've been kind of like, when it comes to Motorola, but I think they're kind of the dark horse when it comes to this wearable tech game, because when you actually see the video of the Moto 360, as it's called, the title of the video is called It's Time. And it's just a brief video and just showing different situations and, some of the moldings and things that have come across with this particular platform into that wearable tech world. But even on the thumbnail, it looks like it's just a regular watch. So to me, I think they've got something definitely in store for the wearable watch community, and something to go after some of these other companies with, because they give you just enough, to keep, and it usually doesn't work on me. Usually I'm like, they don't have anything. They didn't show anything. Well, for some reason, this Motorola 360 watch really, really, really has me, guessing, like, what's going on? What are they actually doing? Do they have something that's just going to stand out so much that they're just, once they unveil it, it's just going to blow us away? I'm not sure. This actually may be the watch to get. And this is something that I'm telling you guys, watch the blogs, Google it, keep up to date on the Moto 360, because something's going to pop out with this, and I have a gut feeling about it that is going to change the wearable watch game, because they're introducing themselves with basically, I don't want to say nothing, but it's just giving you that show factor. And you got to realize that most people, if you do something, you got to be able to back it up. You can't be all talk, because then I'll just be another stab at Motorola as a company. But I think they actually have something this time, because it's like they're focusing more on the actual design of the timepieces, and the different bands and things like that. It looks like a very, very high quality watch, and I think it's going to be great. I mean, I can see older people using this. I can see, because just of the style of it doesn't gear it towards one market or the other. There's some people that kind of hinder themselves, some companies with their wearable tech, that it looks so techy that only, a person geared in between maybe 18 to maybe 35 would wear it. But this here makes it seem like it, takes a broader aspect on it to get it out to their customers. I don't know what do you think from the video, Bob, but I think this is going to be something that we need to actually pay attention to and watch out.
Yeah, you heard it here first on Tech Habit Weekly, but I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it says right here, Moto 360 is a reinvention of the modern timepiece. They're taking a very familiar concept that's familiar to basically anybody that's alive right now. The watch, the 12-digit, minute, second hand, the hour hand, very, very familiar to pretty much anyone walking the planet right now. And they're not doing a Windows 7 to Windows 8 thing where anyone over maybe the age of 20 or 30 that's not really into tech is not going to recognize it. I mean, this is something that, like you said, it's really for any age group. They would at least at the base functionality know that, okay, this is a watch. I know how to tell time on it out of the box. That's a big deal. But whether how mechanical it is, or if they're going to maybe have a mode where it can switch to like a digital interface rather than an analog circular interface with second and hour hands. I mean, I'm not sure what they have in store for us, but I agree that they could honestly really have something here, because they're keeping, like you said, they're focusing on the design, and they're keeping it something familiar. It's not like the Google's version of this, where it's something that's just completely different. All of a sudden my watch is telling me there's jellyfish in the water. It's like, not everyone's going to really want that. Not everyone's going to know how to use that, and that's going to frustrate a lot of people and deter people away right on the store shelf. And so, really quick now, getting into the next story, which is also about smartwatch. This is an LG G Smartwatch. Now, what's up with this one, Dante?
um, it's another part of the wearable tech community. Basically, basically, um, this particular watch is going to be launching in Q2 of 2014 as a low barrier option. And basically, this watch from, I'm sorry, this watch from LG is trying to be in direct competition, of course, with Google's Android Wear OS, or I'm sorry, it's going to be powered by Android Wear OS, but you got to realize it's still going to be kind of in competition with that, because it's another wearable watch. Now, for this particular G Watch, it's going to be developed through collaboration with Google, and LG says that it will work with a wide range of Android smartphones. As the device runs Google's newly announced Android Wear platform and offers contextual information drawn from Google Now. Now, here's my problem: saying that it has to be basically used with another smartphone or something makes me feel like if you don't have a particular smartphone to sync up with it or something, kind of makes it useless in a way. And that's, I think, was where some of these developers need to try to stay away from that. I think they need to say, okay, you can use this as much as you want to, you know, without your phone, because it would be nice because, like I said, if a jogger or a runner is out running, they don't want to carry their phone with them, so if you can't reach them by phone, it'd be nice to be able to reach them by text message or something, and they can just look at it and go, okay, because most joggers, especially women, you have to think about, well, who's got pockets and whatnot on them for their smartphone to be able to take the message and send it from here to there, that sort of thing. I don't know if it's going to have like an almost like an iCloud integration with Apple devices to where it'll just sync up to it regardless if your phone's there or not. Like a lot of time when I'm upstairs and I leave my phone up there and come down here, and I'm on the computer, and I can see my text messages from you guys, whoever has an iCloud account, but my phone's upstairs. That makes perfect sense because I'm away from it, and it's syncing through iCloud to deliver me the message through OS 10. And with something like this here, I'm just not quite sure how that's going to work. I mean, because just saying, it does a wide range of Android phones doesn't say it does all the Android phones. So
Yeah. Where's
does
the
it
line?
mean where's the line? Do I have to buy a certain platform of Android device? Do I have to get like a Galaxy S4 or 3 or something? But what if I own a 2 and just not ready for an upgrade yet or something? Am I out of luck?
Or maybe no
Basically,
Samsung devices.
there you go, or something like that. And it's just one of those things that's kind of a gray area that hasn't exactly been completely confirmed. I don't know what your take is on it, Bob, but I think that little bit of statement could kind of hinder that particular wearable tech.
Yeah, especially for, someone like me, like, if I am outside doing stuff, even just, working outside, if I'm like carrying some like heavy stuff or whatever, I don't want to, risk that, $600 phone in my pocket to be smashed or dropped or something. So it'd be really cool to just have, a watch on. But, if it relies completely on a phone, then it's not something that would really appeal to me. And I'm sure it wouldn't appeal to a lot of people because that's kind of the point of having a watch, just so you don't have to have your phone on you all the time. And so, I mean, that is definitely a big factor in the whole wearables market is how much it has to rely on a separate device. And so, I mean, it is really hard to say. It is powered by, like you said, the Google Wear platform. So there's going to be some interesting features, but at the end of the day, it's how that company really takes it and where they go with it that really matters. I mean, the hardware is just as important as the software here. You can have a very, very solid software foundation, but if you put it on some hardware that just doesn't meet that same software standard, then what's the point?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if this ends up being like, say, the LG version does end up relying more on a phone or something like a tablet or anything like that, how do you think that would affect its pricing towards maybe something that isn't so reliable, so I guess reliable on another device?
Honestly, I mean, you got to realize that the company, they always see the big picture of it. So I don't think it will reflect the price at all. I think they'll just look at it like, well, you guys just don't understand, basically, And honestly, just by looking at the design of it, it looks a lot cheaper than the other two devices. And if that reflects, maybe they have a better cost margin or something like that, then that would be nice to just give you that. I could spend $200, I could spend 150, but for 79.99 I get LGs or something. That would make sense because of course, with quality can offset costs and things like that. But for that functionality, I mean, it has to work all the way. I mean, honestly, I don't see why there's a reason why, if it's an Android based platform, why it shouldn't work. I mean, especially with the basic functions that I'm thinking of, like messaging and things like that. I'm like, well, why wouldn't that work with all the smartphones? Why just a wide range? So I think that, like I said, I think it kind of hinders it, and we'll definitely see because I mean, being able to stack up against the Moto 360, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that thing looks nice.
Looks
This thing
nice.
looks plastic. I mean, and I'm not quite sure if they may have like a plastic version of it and maybe an aluminum one. Maybe there's like a premium. I don't know if they're going in different stages of wearable tech, but this is becoming a trend, and I can see everyone pretty much jumping onto this at some point. But this one kind of not quite. I'm not really looking forward to this one. We'll definitely see what it does, but like I said, that one statement, it just caught me. I mean, and it wasn't like a huge statement. It was just like, yeah, 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 with a
By the
wide
way,
range of devices and blah, blah, blah. I was like, wait a minute, and I'm not an Android guy, but I'm looking out for the best interest of other people and myself. If this is something I'm going to use or something I'm going to recommend to somebody, I have to know if it's going to work for their device, regardless of what platform it's on. Because are you just, taking this directly to, people on certain, I mean, what if you got an old Android phone and you're running, Froyo or Cupcake or, Gingerbread or something like that? I mean, that would be something that would actually cause a problem, if you can't update. If there's a software limitation on your device, I think that would stink to have to buy two things to get one thing to work.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree, and we'll just have to see. Time will tell as to what these things will sell for, what the limitations are going to be. But until then, tell us what you guys think about all this crazy smartwatch commotion down below in the comments. Do you guys think Apple will come to market with their own solution? If so, what do you think it'll have that's different than what Google Wear offers? What do you think Google Wear has a huge edge, and maybe will always have a huge edge over what Apple could offer? And tell us what you think about these different smartwatches from LG and Motorola, which one you would buy if they were the same price, if you're really in that market, which one do you think has the edge for you? So all that fun stuff. Be sure to let us know down below in the comments. And now rant off with smartwatches. We're done for episode 22. So until next time, we'll see you guys, the whole smartwatch scene, at a later time. But now what we're going to talk about is something that just recently came out, and by recently I mean yesterday, the HTC One M8. I call it the Mate, kind of going Australian there. But it's finally released despite the crazy amount of leaks that we've all seen, past couple weeks, couple days, whatever have you. Dante, what makes this phone so great? Why is the rumor or like the hype train up just chugging away so much?
honestly, the hype is because this is no slouch of a phone. Let's give you guys a quick rundown, and this is almost like, looking at the sports pages of a winning basketball team for a guy, and this is how it is for me anyway. Check this out. This particular phone is equipped with a 5-inch 1080p display sporting a quad-core Snapdragon 801 processor clocked at 2.3 gigahertz, and there's also a 2.5 gigahertz model that's going to be launched in Asia. I don't know why they always get the best stuff. Anywho, it's going to be coming stock with Android 4.4 and 18 with HTC Sense, and there's going to be a lot of different things in here. I mean, 2 gigabytes of RAM. There's a 16 gigabyte and 32 gigabyte storage edition, and also you there for the first time there's a micro SD card slot that you can expand your storage up to 128 gigabytes on micro SD, not total on just the micro SD. So
Wow.
yeah, it's very nice. It sports a bigger battery. It has a 2600 milliamp an hour battery, and it seems like it's going to be very great. Another addition is the dual cameras. Basically, they got one for just a sensor and the other for the camera, then a 5 megapixel front facing camera with a wider viewing range on the front. It looks very nice. I told you guys before on previous versions, previous episodes of Tech Habit Weekly that if I had to go to Android and I literally had to pick a device, it would be the HTC One. And I said that because the refined brushed aluminum edges and everything on it, it is an amazing phone. And I'm really happy that this came out. And I'm not an Android guy, but this is, I mean, it sports all the latest technology. I mean, Bluetooth 4.0, 802.11, ABG, N and AC, and I mean, it can support Wi-Fi to 2.4 gigahertz and up to 5 gigahertz on frequency bands, and it is very, very nice. And I don't know about you, Bob, but if there was for some unforeseen reason, like Apple went under for some sort of fraud or extortion, or maybe they partnered up with Miley Cyrus and just took a huge dive, from her studio sales and their Apple sales, would you actually choose this particular phone as a phone for yourself personally?
There's a pretty good chance of that, and I mean, just the main reason is build quality. And if I'm going to be spending hundreds of dollars on a phone, I honestly don't really want something that's plasticky. I don't want something. A lot of people do say that you could drop a plastic phone and it's fine. You could drop an iPhone, and because it has the build quality that it does, the way that it's built, it could crack a little easier. I get that, but regardless, I still don't want a plastic phone. If I really need to, I can put a case on it. I'd much rather have an aluminum body phone. And I mean, this thing just looks very nice. And one thing too that it says here that the battery that Dante mentioned, 2600 milliamp hours, it has 40% better battery life than the previous version. And with heavy use, it lasts longer than an entire day. That's something I can honestly say I wish I had on my iPhone. If I'm using, if I open up like a VNC application on my iPhone, or if I'm playing a game with the screen brightness up, that phone will not last a day. I mean, the battery life on the iPhone, honestly, I think Apple hyped it up a little bit with the whole iOS 7 thing and the whole background apps being more efficient, only doing things when they need to and doing them all at the same time. I really thought that have a greater effect on the battery life than it has. I hate to say that's true, but it is. My iPhone battery lately, the last couple of days, I have been using it a bit more than I have, just standard. And I can definitely say that I need to bring a charger with me. In fact, I have it right here, like on my desk, because it was in my coat pocket. And so, this phone being having the design that it does and having that battery, I think is a really big deal, at least for someone like me, a heavy power user. The 5-inch display, I feel, might be a little bit big. I think the iPhone's 4-inch screen is a little small. I think like the 4.5 area for me is about a good size. But everything can taking into consideration here, the 2 gigabytes of RAM, all the different wireless options. It's a very fully featured phone. It's one of those flagship phones. If it was a video game, it'd be a video game that you buy a console for. I mean, this is honestly probably the top dog phone on the market right now, and I can definitely say that it will sell very well. Dante, how much would you pay for something like this?
Honestly, I mean, with a contract and say if it was the 16 gigabyte option, I don't think there should be any reason that that phone could not be 199.99 with a brand new contract, new 2-year agreement. And I mean, honestly, it would make a great upgrade for someone who is on the Android platform, or who had the previous version, maybe the M7. And I think it's great. I mean, just being able to get that many options in one bundled package. And, as you guys saw in our video that Terrell had up from Mr. Tybox 123's unboxing, I mean, it looks very, very nice. I mean, and this has actually been a release from AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon, and not T-Mobile yet. I think T-Mobile's coming out later this month, I believe. But it is very, very nice. But at the press conference in New York, I think they did a very good job, with presenting it, and like you said, with the battery life. I mean, yeah, I definitely am with you with that. That sometimes my iPhone battery life, it varies. It's really weird, and I try to at least once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks try to cycle my battery to make sure that I can get the best charge out of it and everything. But there's days it lasts literally as much as I'm using it, on the load. I maybe come home and it may be 54% or something, but then there's other days that I'm like just, struggling to find my charger, before I get home. So, definitely good. I think it's nice. They say there's actually a gold option too, for I haven't seen the actual color of it, but there's actually a gold option too, and I'm sure just to kind of stay with the whole Apple brushed aluminum, kind of give you some competition there as far as the look and feel of it. But it's definitely a lot of phone in the HTC One M8 version that just released. I think it's very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a freak for hardware specs, and for a phone, this thing is crazy. I mean, this is
Yeah.
almost as good as like my work computer. I mean, my desktop computer that I go to work and do some Excel stuff on and whatever. This is almost as good as that. I mean, it's a quad core processor, 2.3 gigahertz. At work, think I have like a 2 point or maybe even like a 3.0 or something Core i5, which obviously that's going to be faster than like a mobile processor that's found in a phone, but it's getting close. I mean, 2 gigs of RAM. Pretty soon we're going to start seeing where that 64-bit phone architecture comes into play with addressing more than 4 gigs of RAM. We're already halfway there. And not long ago, 1 gig of RAM was like crazy. It's like mined everywhere on the walls.
Right.
So a phone like this definitely raises the bar a bit. I'm really glad to see that. I would love to walk into a store and play with this thing. Absolutely. Um, I don't know. Dante, do you think that you asked me the same question? If you is this a phone that you would switch to? I mean, if you just had to ditch your
Definitely.
iPhone.
And definitely, honestly. And here's one big reason why. We have a video here of how actual water resistant. This is actually a video that's done by the team at TechSmartt, and they're going to show you basically how long you can keep this particular phone submerged in water. And this is, I'm not joking, there's no camera trickery here. This thing can be submerged in water for a very long time. And it is really weird because thinking about how many accidents and how many warranties have been voided, and just due to moisture. I've heard people that just drop it just so fast in water, take it right out, and it's destroyed. And a lot of manufacturers won't warranty it and things like that. But just being able to have this thing be almost completely waterproof is a very, very huge deal as far as buying a new phone, because you're basically getting that added protection without having to put some funny case around it or some
Yeah.
big thing that's going to make it a big bulky brick, kind of like the capsule inside of, with my Magic Mouse sits in here, now that's your phone now, and, and basically just bringing something that is already stocked with its hardware and making it water resistant, I think is great. And it just sits in there, and the guy states in the video that even though the camera is moving, it's because he's had it open so long that his camera's getting so hot, so he just has to set it back up, reposition it. But he ensures that he did not take the phone out of the water, and it is very nice. The time lapse, I believe he has it in there for almost an hour, and takes it out, wipes the screen, and then he's able to use it with full functions, and it's great. And then they also do a stress test with a scratch and hammer test, and they're going to just beat the phone up. I mean, people have seen these tests a lot, usually with the iPhone
Yeah.
and different flagship phones. They'll just do drop tests and things like that. Well, what he tried was he took a knife and a key, and the standard key was more likely what's going to scratch a lot of people's phones, because if you're anything like me, I do actually have a leather pouch that I keep my iPhone 5S in when I'm at work. But sometimes if it's in my pocket, I actually make a mistake and like throw it's in the same pocket as my keys. It's just something like, I don't know, just something I don't think about that happens. Well, when he was doing the scratch test with the key, then you can see just like pretty much any aluminum surface that you're going to develop some scratches. Like here on the bottom of my 2011 MacBook, there's actually some scratches on the aluminum that you can actually visibly see, and they're not deep though. I mean, you run your hands across them and you can't feel it. But it was the same thing here, and with the aluminum being already that brushed look anyway, the scratches aren't that noticeable. But then he also used a regular like sharp kitchen knife, and he was just going across the back of it, and of course they made some noticeable damage on the actual aluminum parts of it. But one thing that really surprised me with this is how well the screen held up. He was scratching the phone screen with a key, the knife, and he was even making some light taps with a full-size hammer with the actual impact, type hammer with the extra added, blunt force to it. And it wouldn't scratch and it wouldn't crack until he was applying like some superb
Yeah.
force down on that screen to actually get it to crack. And that, to me, like you were saying, was that build quality coming from HTC. And honestly, out of HTC, I wouldn't expect anything less from one of their flagship phones as this particular HTC One M8 edition. And I think it's great. Like I said, the waterproofing is that was huge. The scratch and dent test, basically, it held up great because most people aren't banging their phones with hammers. So to me, as a typical user, and if you're just making a few drops and dings here and there, yeah, you're gonna probably ding up the aluminum and whatnot, and that's going to happen. But to not break your screen, I could definitely deal with a nick and a ding on my brushed aluminum before I crack my screen.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. But like I said, very good phone. If I was an Android user, I would definitely jump right on this particular flagship phone without hesitation, just because of that build quality and the actual, they give you that extra with the water resistance. I mean, that's not to say that you guys should just go get your phones and just try submerging it underwater or anything, but it is nice to know that if I drop in water, more likely I'm okay. I probably won't have a problem. And then they did
Yeah.
a few other things like remove like a sensor around across the top and things like that, instead of just having that stupid black dot like they used to have. But yeah, just a lot of different refinements. I think they actually took some input from their consumers to make this work out better. I think it's great.
Yeah, there's not many Android phones out there that can say, "Wow, I wish my iPhone had that." But I mean,
Right.
this phone has actually quite a few of those things. It has
Yeah.
that really. I can't absolutely guarantee at all with any confidence once again at all, that if I had my phone on a desk and I took a hammer to it, even after one hit, that it would be okay. Like I
Yeah.
can't. This thing is definitely a lot
Yeah.
more fragile than that phone is, and that is absolutely awesome.
And
The
then
whole yeah,
another
go ahead.
thing, Bob, you have to think about is that phone has a removable back. Like
Yeah.
that's the other thing that doesn't make sense to me. Oh, that particular model doesn't? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That model doesn't have a movable back.
Okay.
When we were talking about the micro SD card, I just assumed it. So apparently, so it has its own slot. Okay, that makes sense. So sorry about that. But
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
yeah, that would have been really weird. I'm like, well, what kind of seal do they have? But so sorry to get you guys kind of hyped, like what? But yeah, but honestly, but still, it's still very good. And then, oh, and thanks Terrell for bringing that picture of that gold out. Now I can see that the actual gold, and it actually does look good. It doesn't look cheesy or anything. And the more champagne-ish color, if you want to say that, looks very very good. And like I said, if I had a choice, definitely would go with that phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to reiterate, I mean, there's just so many things about this phone that I wish my iPhone had that. Not so much in terms of software, but the hardware. I mean, it looks great and it's also extremely durable. And honestly, I wish Apple could do something to up their build quality a little bit. But and of course, when I say build quality, the phone itself feels very nice. It looks very nice. It is very nice, but it's not as durable as I would like it. I
Right.
can't. If I drop this phone, I am genuinely afraid that I will shatter it. And I wish that wasn't the case, but that's the cost of being an iPhone user apparently. But this phone definitely does pack a lot of hardware things that even down to the specs underneath the hood that I could say, yeah, it would be nice if my iPhone had that. I really kind of wish it did. But regardless, staying on the terms of the M8, what's up with this dot case? That's definitely something that's very unique, something I haven't quite seen before. But Dante, what is this? Do you know exactly how it works? I mean, are these all separate little LEDs in there, or?
Well, I first heard about this particular case through Mr. Tybox 123. He was actually mentioning it in his unboxing, and it kind of had me like, well,
Huh?
what is he saying? And it was just something I just kind of briefly held on to. I wasn't quite sure what it was. Well, now actually looking at the case, it actually looks very very nice. Basically, if I could put this in terms that people can understand, you can actually have like a customizable case with LEDs on it, and it's just another thing that, especially with Android users, as far as being rooted and things like that, that to have more customization with your actual device, it looks very very nice. And I don't know if I would actually use something like that because I just don't know if I would want to kind of go that flashy, in
Yeah.
that fashion anyway. But it does look nice. I mean, for people that would want something like that, it's probably everything that they thought it would be and more. And not only just giving some general protection of your phone, it actually looks nice as it's doing while doing it. Now, for you, Bob, now would you use something like this if they had like an iPhone equivalent, or what, or would you just use this as something just to try out?
I don't know. It honestly depends on the price. I mean, if it was like, 10, $20 or something, then it's something I would just get it just because to say I did and try it and see how it goes. It's definitely not something that's going to add, durability to your phone or anything. And looking at it here, I don't think there's any LEDs on it. I could be wrong, but I think they're just like, yeah, it's just through the screen. So the screen, there's just so many holes in it that, the screen lights up only in certain areas. The rest just remains black. And so the little light that there is white on the display, and that shines through the little holes. So it gives like a little pixelated effect. But yeah, like I said, like I was saying, this is not something that's going to add durability to your phone. And on Android, it's a bit different because you have, the option of lock screen widgets. So on this, of course, you can have on an Android phone, I should say, you have of course, you give you the time, but you can also have, say, like a weather widget on there or something. Whereas on the iPhone, you don't have anything in terms of weather at a glance. So you always have to swipe down from Notification Center or actually go into the weather app. You don't have that information on the lock screen, which I wish that Apple would let us add stuff like that to the lock screen.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to add a whole, tons of widgets, but weather would be nice because weather is something I'm always looking at. But this offers you weather. It kind of gives you like a cloud or a little sun as to the conditions, the actual temperature, and of course the time. I'm sure you could probably customize that, if you can already very soon. On the iPhone, this case would add more value than I think it does on Android because, like I said, on Android you can have that information at a glance already, whereas on the iPhone you can't. So honestly, if like I said, if it was 10, $20, it's a case that I would definitely give a try on my iPhone or something. But if they want like 50 or $60 for this case, then for
Yeah.
for what it offers, then But then again, the HTC M8 has that amazing build quality. It
That's
doesn't
true.
really need a case to give it a lot of durability. So,
That's true.
I don't know. So, Dante, do you think you'd give this case a shot?
I don't think so. I mean, I like the look of it. I mean, it's just one of those things that I'm not a big fan of cases I have to open,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just one of those things like I feel like I'm opening like a little booklet. Like matter of fact, I was working with a guy today and he had his Samsung Galaxy S4 inside a case that had like his wallet. It was weird. Like he opened it up and you saw like little pockets for his credit
Yeah, I've
cards
seen
and
those.
and I was like, that's weird, and I'm like, well, we know where he keeps his money, so hey, one stop shop, guys. If you just want to, and take the guy. Not saying you guys should do that, but I'm just saying. But back to the case, it does look nice, but honestly, I feel like once you get something that's that technically savvy and that nice to be able to look at something kind of that pixelated, it's like I mean, yeah, it's nice because it's that particular case that does open, and you don't have to open the phone to actually get these little notifications, like you said, the time and the weather, and it shows like a little sun, and it just like you said shines through with the little dots. And I was actually mistaken. I thought there was actually LEDs in it, but that actually makes sense. I mean, I was like, wait a minute, that wouldn't that generate a lot of heat? And then looks like it actually supports some little gestures and whatnot,
Yeah.
from top down, and things like that to activate some different functions. Like you said, 10-20 bucks if I had the phone, sure. I think it'd be a nice little addition, and it's kind of cool to show off because, that I know of, there's not too many other cases that do something like that. But anything more than that, I wouldn't pay. And actually, we just got word here that it's about 50 bucks, so I can just tell you,
Nope.
not for me. You know, so
Yeah.
just sorry. I mean, it does look nice, but I don't think it looks that nice for me to say,
It's
"Hey,
not
look
fifty
at
dollars
this,"
nice.
and then add wow factors over. It's the surprise party guy with just the kazoo and the one thing of confetti. It just okay, fun's over. But
That's fun.
nice case though. Nice case, nice concept. But I don't know. Maybe this trend will just get a little better. Maybe other case manufacturers are actually going to come up with something. They'll take that idea and say, you know what? I think we can take that to another level with
And for
something
cheaper.
maybe, yeah, for cheaper. Because think about having, if you already got a case on your phone, something that you don't have to open. What if there's little things that you can just activate right there without having to actually unlock your phone to get to those menus? Now that would be nice. And I probably just gave away $1 billion idea. But if so, you heard it first here on Tech Habit Weekly, episode 22. And but yeah, nice case. I think it's okay, but it's just like I said, the kind of the pixelated looks like, yeah, not for me. Too much money.
Yeah, we should record a little disclaimer at the end of the show, a little
Yeah.
copyright thing, a little something. But I think one thing also that makes this case a little bit better is because the front of it is obviously flat, but the back of the phone is rounded. And so with a flat case on a rounded back, once you fold it back, it would probably feel kind of weird. I don't know. I think maybe if it was kind of like a smart cover material that could like bend a little bit,
Yeah, maybe
it,
snap to the back
yeah,
of it or something, and
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Then again, it could be nice because then maybe if you fold the case back, then it provides the phone a flat surface on a table or something, so it won't like rock back and forth. I mean, honestly, like I said, I'd kind of have to get my hands on it. But if I did have this phone, the M8, I don't think I'd spend an extra $50 for this. I'm pretty much there with you, Dante. So,
Yeah.
guys, tell us what you think about this phone. I mean, was this phone worth all the hype to you? Is this the phone that okay? I've been an iPhone user for a couple years. I want to try Android. Do you think this is the phone that you'd get? Do you think that nothing could pull you away from your beloved iPhone? Is there some things that, like me and Dante, think that the iPhone could learn from this phone? Whatever the case is, be sure to let us know down below in the comments because we want to hear what you guys think. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys just a couple of brief stories. We're not going to go too in depth with. Just recently, Apple decided that they were going to reintroduce the iPad fourth generation, which therefore kills the iPad 2. Dante, why do you think they do this?
Honestly, I mean, the iPad 2 was like one of the last ones that still had a dock connector. It's just one of those things where
3 years
that
old.
30 pin, yeah, that thing's old. I mean, and it's funny that with older technologies, as growing up, there was things that if you bought it once, that was it. You didn't get upgraded and upgraded. Well, now things like a 3-year-old tablet is a 3-year-old tablet. I mean, it's like having a pad of paper versus having an actual tablet. It's really weird. But luckily, Apple was smart about it, and they did keep it around for educational purposes and things like that. And it did very, very well when they integrated this in schools because school children and the different age groups didn't need all the functionality of like the Retina iPad, like the fourth generation, and so it worked out well, and it worked out well for several years. Well, now I think they're finally just getting to the point where, since it was still in production and still being sold on, Apple.com and things like that, they're probably like, well, we kind of don't really want to fix these anymore because I'm sure they still have warranties. I mean, because you could still buy a brand new iPad too. So with all the technology being moved towards Lightning connectors and different things like that, I think they're like, you know what? I think we're just going to go ahead and phase this one out. But now I'm thinking this with Apple's scheme of things of how they've done with education and things like that. We got to realize the kids are getting older. Technology is getting better. So having an iPad 2 is not exactly the best equivalent thing to have in the school, but an iPad 4 full size would be great because you still get the quality, you still get, the faster speeds and being able to, support the faster Wi-Fi bands and things like that. And I think it'll actually work better. So I'm thinking this is honestly like the new iPad 2. And what I mean by that is I think this is going to be that iPad that's going to stick around when we're,
Yeah.
walk around with the iPad Mini 4 with, Retina HD or something in it, and you're like, man, they still got that iPad 4 around, But I think they do that for a very good reason. And like I said, because being able to put this in educational markets or, kind of have, I guess, a budget, if I could say budget iPad, and I don't mean that in terms of price. I mean in build quality and acquisition in different places that you're going to do as far as a business venture. But of course, it's not the most expensive, one, but it's definitely not the cheapest. I mean, you can get an iPad Mini, and pay what, 329 or something for just a regular iPad Mini, not the iPad Mini with Retina display. I actually think it might be a little lower. It might be 299. Anywho, this particular model, I think, works out great. And like I said, just being able to just basically say goodbye to the 30 pins or hello Lightning connectors, and I think it's great. I mean, as far as the performance and things like that, they say that it can still deliver up to 10 hours of battery life on it, which is really good because I remember Terrell had one and that thing was a beast. I was surprised that he didn't charge it for days and days, and when he finally did, I mean, it took a while to actually charge it, but with this, pricing and availability of it with the Retina display, and I think it's great. I mean, just being able to get that, on Apple.com and just have just another option out there, for you, I think works great. Now, I feel bad for those people who just bought an iPad 2 at what, 399 or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but I don't know, maybe Apple do something like, all right, but I think they're just phasing it out. I mean, that technology, it finally just got that old where it's like, okay. And then plus it actually does support, LTE bands and things like that, things that the iPad 2 did not support. So
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, it'll stick around. I think they're going to always have that trend, and maybe we'll see something differently with maybe the iPad Mini line. Maybe they'll start with maybe the iPad Mini without Retina display, or maybe with Retina display. A couple years down the road, and it'll just be like another, iPad that stays around for a long time because of these acquisitions. So, what do you think, though?
Honestly, this is think of this as like a tube of toothpaste, and you think the thing's done, but there's still a bit left in there. We're gonna get as much as we can out of this thing, and that's exactly what they did with the iPad 2. I mean, they got. I mean, I don't think there's another tablet out there that's been around for 3 years, and if it has been, it certainly has not been as successful as this tablet has been. So Apple definitely got their money out of this thing. Like I said, they kept it around for educational purposes. It's obviously a lot cheaper to produce one of these than it is an iPad 4th generation, just because the display is not Retina, the processor's slower. I mean, it's just a lot cheaper to produce, and they were still making a good profit on it. So why not squeeze that toothpaste out of that toothpaste tube?
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
but now it is time. The benefits. I mean, especially with iOS 7, I think the iPad 2 did support iOS 7, if I'm not mistaken, but it couldn't have been running all that great, even despite not having a Retina display. So with just all, I mean, I personally have a third generation iPad, and up until I got 7.1, iOS 7 was killing the performance of my iPad. It made me not even want to use it at all. It was just disgusting. And then I finally updated it to 7.1 the day it came out. And that thing, it honestly, that update restored life into my iPad. It's actually usable now, but it's still, there's times where it drops some frames or the animations kind of take a second to engage. Then all of a sudden it's there. The iPad 4th generation, just with the increase of GPU power, it's definitely going to be a very nice tablet that, once again, I think they're going to get all the toothpaste out of that tube. And we're going to probably see this. We'll be up to, the iPad Air Maxi or something. I don't know. We're going to, a generation or two down the line. we're still going to have the iPad 4 hanging in there. And maybe then, who knows, the next budget iPad will be the iPad Air because we'll just be that far ahead. So definitely hang in there. Only comes in 16 gigabytes. So they're not going to go crazy and let you customize all these different
Right.
configurations. So definitely a good move, I think. Also, a very similar story here. Apple releases an 8 gigabyte iPhone 5C, which personally I think this is I don't think it's a good idea. I
No.
mean, 8 gigabytes on a phone, it's just, it's not
No.
good anymore at all. The OS takes
No.
probably a gig and a half of that. So you're
Yeah.
probably down to like 5 or 6 or so gigabytes that you can actually use once everything's all said and done. You put one movie on there, and all of a sudden you can't even install an OS update anymore. Dante, why do you think, just really quick, why do you think they would even release this model? Who do you think this would appeal to?
I mean, honestly, it would only appeal to, you know, cheaper budgets and struggling markets. Like this particular acquisition is actually only being, as of right now, over in the European market. So right as of right now in the US, there isn't an 8 gigabyte version of the iPhone 5C. The iPhone 5C is already the budget iPhone anyway. Basically, it's a repackaged iPhone 5, and to make it go lower, I don't think that's going to work very well, only because, like you said, only having 8 gigabytes and you have to have that, that other gig or something, that's always there for your OS. It's going to make you very limited. And you guys will be surprised how fast you fill up 8 gigabytes of storage with just having a
Yep.
few apps, maybe a little bit of music, and maybe, like you said, one movie. You would get to the point where you have to wipe your phone just to do the software update to put it all back on, and it's
Yep.
because they require a certain amount of space before even getting the update. And it's I think it's kind of messed up because I thought it was weird when they came out with that 8 gigabyte version of the iPhone 4S and things like that. I was
Yeah.
just like,
Eh,
but you saw what it was geared towards. It was like that in between where you don't have to buy the brand new iPhone 5, and you don't have to pay the money for the 16 gig model iPhone 4S. You can get the 8 gig for this price. And I think it's the same thing there. And like I said, as of right now, the UK carrier O2 says made a plan to officially releasing the phone on sale on the website, and it says still at this time it's not available in any U.S. carrier stores or the Apple website on this side on the U.S. side. So like I said, I just think it's just try to drive some sales. They say they've been having pretty disappointing sales over there in Europe as far as the iPhone, and it's just a different market over there. I mean, we're not,
yeah.
Apple's not going to win everywhere. So with this, maybe it'll help, maybe not. I'm thinking more towards not. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, not something I'd ever buy. I have 32 gigs now and I can't stand it. I need 64. My next phone has to be at least 64 because even now, when I had to install 7.1, I found I had to delete some stuff in order to get the update. So that's not cool to me. Personally, I don't think the sales of this phone are going to do too well. But, then again, it could be for someone that says, all right, fine. My phone died, my flip phone. I'll get a smartphone, but I do not want to spend one more cent than I have to. I'm not going to load it up with apps. I just want something very, very basic, and maybe this will be the phone for them. Who knows? But moving on, Office for iPad to be announced March 27th. Dante, have you found yourself missing, Office for the iPad? Do you think Microsoft's been missing out?
Microsoft is actually being very smart with this because basically they know that more people are going to probably use the Office app on an iPhone or iPad more than their actual Windows devices. And the reason why I say that is they can pull the trigger at any time to release these things, and they own the product. So they're like, yeah, we're still working on some stuff. I think finally they just got to the point, almost with your toothpaste metaphor, with squeezing the juice out of the lemon on this one. They're like, okay, we got to go ahead and give this to the iPad because we need to get that rolling because they know how many people actually use this. And that was the one thing they had over Apple. They're like, well, everyone uses Office, and they do. It's a piece of software, but since they don't want to port it over and all these bugs and things to work out, they kind of had, Apple right where they wanted them as far as in the enterprise market. But with this acquisition, it's going to be great. A matter of fact, we actually had this conversation in school like 2 nights ago, and my instructor, she was saying that basically if she had Office for her iPad, her life would be a whole lot better. And honestly, if I had it for the iPhone, it would make my job a lot better too, just to be able to use .xls Excel spreadsheet files and things the right way. Yes, there's all these different apps that say they do it. It's not
It's a mess.
Microsoft Excel. That's why. That's the problem. So, but being able to do this is going to be great because It said that it's going to be finally available and set for March 27th in San Francisco. And yeah, it's going to be nice. And it says the official launch for it is going to be in July of this year, 2014. And I think it's going to be great. I can't wait for it. I mean, it's going to be have Word, it's going to have PowerPoint, Excel, and even OneNote. It's a newer app that they have. And I think it's going to be great. They're going to generate a lot of sales from this, and a lot of companies are going to be buying these licenses to be able to put that on there. And number one, who wouldn't want Office on pretty much anything? I mean, is who doesn't use a word processor and
Yeah.
PowerPoint presentations and things like that, depending on what you're doing, especially like teachers and whatnot. I think it's a very good deal, and honestly, I can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah, I mean, people like me, people like you, I mean, there's definitely a lot of applications on maybe the desktop platform or on other operating systems that we haven't had on the iPad, and we've kind of had the sign that it wasn't coming anytime soon. So we just kind of found alternatives. And for me, I have Pages on the iPad, I have Numbers on the iPad. I mean, and when I do need to use them, they work okay. Like I said, it's kind of a mess if you have to import it. Honestly, I don't really use it all that much. I do have a VNC app that actually I'll be talking about in a little bit here, but my iPad pretty much always has Wi-Fi, and if I really need to, type something up in Word on my iPad, maybe I'm not at home on my computer, I don't have my MacBook with me. As long as I'm on Wi-Fi, I can just access my computer and then just kind of open up a Word document there and kind of go at it. And then if I really need to, email it to myself on my iPad and forward it to wherever I need to.
Yeah.
But being an iPad user, we have kind of found these little workarounds because we're not used to having absolutely everything that we need, because companies like Microsoft with their apps, they kind of take their time to port them over, and I mean, it's their product, they can do what they want with it. But
Right.
me personally, depending on how much it costs, I probably don't even really need to buy this, because like I said, being an Apple user, I found my workarounds. Same thing on the OS 10 platform, you kind of just find apps that do 98% of what the thing that you need to do is, and that's typically good enough for most things. So like I said, it completely depends on the price for me in terms of whether I'd buy it or not. But absolutely, at work, I mean, they're starting to deploy iPads where I work at, and so I could definitely see, buying like a company license to Microsoft Word on an iPad. I could definitely see companies investing in something like that. So we'll have to see where that goes. One more quick little Apple story here. Apple releases Here to Help. Now, we did talk about this on our last episode. This is Apple's $19.99 fee per incident for out of warranty devices. Dante, just kind of to recap, why exactly do you think they did this?
Like I said before, and this is just the best answer that I could come up with. I think they actually did it before because of the man hours and kind of the time wasted to pay their employees to try to fix problems that were either so old or you just completely didn't know anything about. Things were completely out of warranty. They had to probably take time to figure out how to fix those things because they aren't commonly worked on devices at the particular time. If someone's asking you how to fix their lampshade iMac or something, and you're just like, because and now you got to go through all these steps and maybe get out the Bible of Apple and try to thumb through this and look through the scrolls and maybe take a torch and go down 3 flights of stairs in the Bat Cave and maybe figure out if Alfred's going to give you that different document that you need for it. That's probably the problem. And being able to get this type of service, I think, would actually help. And honestly, I think it would help. Just putting a fee there would kind of help you to get that answer elsewhere, to help you use your web browser and go to maybe google.com, good source for information, by the way. And you can type in some of these things and kind of help yourself, because I understand when people you just don't understand. I understand that. But maybe if you don't understand so much, you're like, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'd pay somebody. That may be one of those things that they could use that for. But as you see here, like you said, it was 1999 or 1995.
Nine.
1999, I'm sorry, 1999 per incident. I think would help out. I mean, because even the article here shows a picture of an old G3 and then that old school cinema display and all that. All that old technology is things that more likely they're newer Apple employees and people who haven't been around for a long, long time and have probably never used, and so it'd be a lot harder for your new tech who's been there, 2 years or something, and who's still considered new, to give you troubleshooting on something that's so old that he or she doesn't even have experience with.
Yeah.
So I think it's good though. I think it's a good acquisition that like I said, if people just actually have it and it's like, you know what, I'll pay somebody, or like I said, steer you towards just kind of looking it up yourself. So
Yeah, I mean, just something to reiterate. I mean, if you just got a new computer, I mean, they're not going to charge you $20 for a question. I mean, this is
right,
just for
right. It's
products
out
that
of
are out of
warranty.
warranty,
Correct.
which I think is what, like a 3-year period. 1 year period? I'm honestly not even sure because I think it's the Apple Care that extends to 3 years, right? If you were
Yes,
to buy
Apple.
Apple
Yes.
Care, so
Mhm.
okay, so yeah, I mean
But they
it's
always come with like I believe a standard 1 year
yeah, yeah,
warranty from Apple. So in between that, you're good. So if you just now buy a Retina 15-inch or something, they're not gonna say, hey, they'll cover you. And then if you bought Apple Care on top of that, I
then you're
think that
good.
helps too. Yeah,
Yeah,
but if it's just completely out of warranty like this, like my 2011 15-inch MacBook Pro, it's completely out of warranty. That would be an incident report right there. So because it has
gotcha.
no Apple Care and it's too old to be covered by their 1 year Apple protection that they give you. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean it does make sense. If you've ever been on the service side of like a help desk call or something, then you'll know that there are some ridiculous questions that come through. And with a company as big as Apple, and as how many products they have out there, all those people calling in with just questions that honestly they could Google and they'd be fine. There's a lot of company time, a lot of manpower there running the phones that's kind of just being wasted for something that could be found out in 5 minutes if you just kind of look yourself.
yeah,
So hopefully this kind of gears people to use Google because it is there. It's in our pockets now. It's everywhere. Please use it. I think that's kind of what Apple's saying here. But one more Apple-related story for the day. This is going to be a little bit more of a different story than we've been talking about here, with just these little quick stories. Healthbook for iOS. Healthbook is something that it's kind of how it sounds. It's kind of Apple's way to kind of have Apple users be better in shape. I mean, after all, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Am I right or am I right? Healthbook for iOS. Dante, what exactly is that?
Basically, I don't know if people have used like Passbook or something like that, but I think it's basically something like that that has a similar feel and look to it. And it's basically just a collection of different activities like nutrition, blood sugar, things that basically monitor some of the things that you actually intake and, through your day to kind of see where you're at health wise. And I think it's very good because, I mean, a lot of things are actually getting fitness based, of course, with different devices having heartbeat monitors and things and such, in them. It seems like, everybody in the tech community are going a little more towards the health side of things. And with this, I think it's going to be great as far as being able to monitor things like your heart rate and hydration, blood pressure, and things like that. Now, here's the only problem. Now, as of right now, there's not like a particular like sensor or anything for this yet, for specifically for this yet. But it's just more of a. It looks like it's just more of a thing that you can just basically check out your body mass index and things like that. Basically, just a monitor to kind of see where you're at. And I know a lot of people that use different apps like that to like count calories and things like that to make sure that they're on track with their goals that they're trying to set for themselves, fitness wise. And they always work well, but it seems like this one is a little more centralized. It seems like this one has a lot more things that I actually wouldn't even think about, like your respiratory rate and oxygen saturation and and things like that. These are some very technical things where I just want to eat a big piece of cake, basically. I just want like, all right, look, I'm eating this whole wedge, not the required slice. How much is it? That'll work. And put that glass of milk on there too. I appreciate it. And but like I said, there's a lot of health nuts out there, and it just looks like a good acquisition. I mean, once we start seeing more things actually integrated with it and different devices that are actually going to use this, to track the activity and weight and nutrition and things like that, I think this thing's going to actually skyrocket pretty well because it even has like a chart by the month and week and day, of your, weight and steps and calories and miles and things, and it's just a graph that can show you kind of what you've been doing, even a yearly graph to say, hey, over the past year since you've used this is how your body has been reacting from the information that's been plugged in. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and this is something too, like you say, it's very possible that it could just take off depending on how convenient it is. Me personally, I'm not the kind of person. I mean, there's just not enough hours in a day for me to keep track of what I eat, how much, how many
Hmm.
calories was that. I mean, I just don't have that ambition at all because it's something that I have to take time to like, figure it all out. But if there's something that Apple can, include in a phone that I have with me all the time anyway, if they make it seamless and make it easy to do so, then you'd almost kind of be crazy not to at least kind of take an interest in your bodily health. I mean, what did I eat today? Me personally, I'm starving. I mean, I've ate like one meal today between school and work and Tech Habit Weekly, and so I mean, this is exactly why that I don't take the time to do this. But if something is doing it for me, then I mean, it'd be silly to not take an interest in it. And just an important note here is that this is something that they are working on. We're just not
Yeah.
sure that it'll actually come to it.
Right.
And any screenshots that we've seen, they're not real screenshots. They're just based off of a source. They're mock-ups that someone said, okay, well, he said that it kind of looked like this, so here's what I'm picturing in my
Right.
mind.
Mhm.
And so nothing here is by any means official as to what it's going to look like or how it's going to function, but it's definitely something that is in existence on the face of this earth somewhere that someone is working on. So honestly, what do you think, Dante? Do you think this will be bundled into iOS 8, or do you think this will be something that Apple kind of sells afterwards, or what do you think?
iOS 8 definitely, because there has to be something, out there to support all that. I mean, there's all these different things that it's going to track. Like one real vague one I'll just talk about very briefly is, it says that they'll be able to track your blood pressure and of course your blood sugar. Well, is there some magical knife coming out the end of that iPhone to stab yourself in the finger and hope you don't kill yourself tonight from that particular wound? There'd be a lot of different lawsuits, I'm sure. But that's like a really vague area on how they're going to actually monitor that. Is that something that's going to be, incorporated with the Touch ID? Is there something that, that Touch ID sensor is just going to be so sensitive that it can actually pull in that type of information? And I'm not sure, and there's just a lot of different things. I mean, because they said that the heart rate can be measured by iPhone apps, smartphone cameras, and gym equipment. And this is all currently, it says that Healthbook will be able to store and track the heart rate and pulse data in beats per minute, as well as the blood pressure data could be recorded within its diagnostic platforms. And I don't know. I mean, just like Samsung's Galaxy Gear Fit, it's just one of those things that it can track different heart rates and and things like that. But as of right now, I don't know of that particular sensor's name or anything like that that is going to be actually incorporated with an iOS device. I mean, and like you said, it's just a mock-up, and it's got that passbook feel to it, and I can see this actually taking off pretty well, because with different companies like Nike and different running companies and making running wear and things like that. There's a lot of different promotions. Like I know that there's a buddy of mine that actually uses Nike Plus app to do all his running, and it tracks his mileage and how many, he's ran like over 2,000 miles or something like that. And it tracks it, through his iOS app. And yeah, I can see like that. If it's just like a centralized location for all that stuff, I think it'd be great. But for a person like me, like I said, I just want that big piece of cake. So it's not going to benefit me. But I'm sure there's a bunch of runners and fitness experts and bodybuilders and things like that who would love to have something like that.
Yeah, and one thing too that I mean, if Apple's going to come out with their own version of something that can help you keep track of your health, all of Apple's latest iDevices have that M7 processor, and that's all for
Yes.
motion and things like that too. So if you move from device to device, then maybe Apple has a way that it can keep track of that. And like I think now with like a Nike Field Band, if you get like one band and maybe it breaks, you get another one, you lose any historic information prior to that point. At least I think I've never owned one or anything, but I think having Apple having like their own way in their own ecosystem, I think they'll be able to preserve any data that could have been lost, maybe from I don't know your phone breaking or anything like that. So definitely, it's cool for people that want to keep track and you don't have to worry about well, okay, what happens when in 2 years after I buy this phone? When it comes time for me to upgrade, then do I lose everything that I do from here until now? Because that would deter a lot of people, I would imagine. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but it's definitely something that, like you say, I think it could definitely take off. And if anyone can implement something like this right, I think it would be Apple. That I think they could do that. So honestly, what do you guys think about this? Like honestly, I think it could be pretty sweet. Definitely something that even me that I don't do this stuff at all, keep track of what I eat or my calorie intake or anything. Even someone like me, this at least kind of tilts my head to say, okay, how are they going to do this? If it's in a way that's really convenient for me, doesn't make me take time out of my day, or at least a lot of time to keep track of this stuff, then maybe I can give it a try. So that's pretty much all the stories we have for you guys today. What we're going to do now is go to the tastiest part of today's show, and that would be, drum roll please, the tech treats. Dante, kick us off with your tech treat. What have you found good this week?
I actually found a really good tech treat. And this is funny because I've been using this particular app since probably the iPhone 2G. And this was a jailbroken app that was
Holding out on
previously,
us.
yeah, this was weird. This is a jailbroken app that was previously not available on the iOS platform, but it is available on the Android platform. I always thought that was weird that when I was in between and I had my Samsung Galaxy S in between my iPhone 3GS, that the app was right there in the Play Store. And I was like, what? And I don't know how big you guys are on ringtone apps, but I really like having customizable ringtones and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that. And I was using this one that was actually in Cydia, and it was called Unlimited Tones. But Unlimited Tones actually takes you to the app that's called Audiko, and Audiko is now a in the App Store, and it works very well. One thing I can say that I actually like about it is being able to launch that app. It's in my music section here, and once you do that, you get this little guy here once it loads, and you're able to basically take the tones that are, you can just hit create ringtone, and it's going to take, you can tell it to create, from some of the song artists and things that you have in your iTunes library and make a ringtone. And then once it actually starts initializing the ringtone here, and now you can see the different wavelengths, and you can just set it to wherever 30 seconds in the song that you want and be able to save it right there. Now, there are really kind of some cons to this, from being in the iOS version versus the version I got off Cydia. Off Cydia, that particular version, I'm able to do that and be able to just make the ringtone on the fly, and boom, I got the ringtone. On this, it's not really a bad thing, it's more of an annoyance. What they want you to do once you actually make it is sync your phone to your iOS device so it can save it under the tone section, which isn't bad. But one thing I did like about the actual version here, the actual jailbroken version, was that being able to save it right there on the fly, and
Mhm.
versus the iTunes version. And other than that, I mean, the app does work very well. I mean, you can set them, make everything custom as much as you want. And another thing I actually liked from the jailbroken version was being able to just search right there for tones that you may or may not have, and be able to get kind of their 30-second iterations, and see kind of which one. I mean, I used to customize my text message sounds and things like that. It used to be the Transformers, transforming noise that, it used to be that noise whenever I received a text message. But, I still think it's a very good app, and especially something that was taken from basically a jailbroken aspect and now into iTunes. I think Apple's actually paying attention to some of these things that people are using in some of the apps that they want, and got this acquisition here. And you can check it out in iTunes. I mean, Audiko Ringtones by Cloudico, and it's very nice to be able to do it because you can put a fade in, fade out at the end of it. I think it's very good, and I'm definitely going to be using this for a long time because I already have been. Now it's a lot easier to get it. So I used to just have to
Awesome.
be in between jailbreaks, but it's a good
Yep.
deal.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely into custom ringtones. For those of you guys that are Metal Gear fans, Metal Gear Solid, the PlayStation game. Here's my text sound. I don't know if you can hear that.
The
And then
alert
also,
when you get
yep. And then
something.
for my call, there's the codec. So I'm definitely into making my own sounds, and I've had to do this on my computer now. What There's a little trick that I learned via Google, is if you just take any sound wave you want, I can throw it into Adobe Audition, or even Final Cut, or kind of trim it however you want, export it to an M4A. All you do is change the file extension from an M4A to an M4R.
M4R, yeah.
Yep, and you could drag it in. But that's kind of a process. It's cool to have an app that kind of does that for you. That is definitely something I will look into because, like I said, it's kind of a process to have to find the clip, edit it, export it, convert it, and then drag it in and then sync it. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
process. So this is a nice all one stop shop, and so definitely I'll give it a try. I mean, you always make me try your tech treats, man. You're gonna give me a cavity. But awesome tech treat, guys. Be sure to check that out. My tech treat is something definitely is along the same lines. It's an iPhone app, and as I was talking about earlier, on the iPad, how I can access my computer. The way I set this up, it's something that you can do with applications like TeamViewer. How you can just kind of remote into your computer. One thing I don't like about TeamViewer or any of the, similar applications is that you have to actually install their version on OS 10 or Windows, and then you have to install the iPhone app. And if that application isn't running on your computer, then all of a sudden you can't access it. So if you have to restart or something, then all of a sudden you're locked out if you're not home. But the way I have it set up, I have it using my domain. I configure the DNS so then I put a subdomain, and so I could be from any VNC client anywhere on any machine. I could just type the domain I set up and have access to my computer without needing to have proprietary software on my computer. Now, an application that lets me do this is my tech treat, and that is an application on iOS. They make it for iPad as well. It's called PocketCloud. So hopefully you guys can see the icon there, right here. And so it's a very simple VNC client. I believe this application does have its standalone, OS 10 version that you can, it has like that proprietary software feel to it, but this will also let you access, any computer any way you'd like. It's just kind of a standard VNC client. So I could just type in my subdomain here with my proper login credentials, and all of a sudden I can see my computer. So I'll really quick go ahead and show you how I do this. So I have the password saved, and so just give it, a brief second here. So it's black right now. And as you can see there, my monitors kind of populate. And there you go. I have full access over my computer. I can zoom in as however close I'd like. By the way, there's a Skype window. You can see Dante. It's like a podcast within a podcast. There you go. And so once again, works on the iPad. It is nice to have the iPad version with a nice big, 9.7-inch screen. But this has come in handy countless times. One time, for example, I went to New York City to watch the ball drop on New Year's Eve, and I needed a file on my computer. All I had to do was go to the App Store, type in VNC. That's when I found this application. And then, right from Times Square, I can access my computer and, email myself a file or do whatever I need to do. And like I said, multiple monitor support. You can just pinch and zoom, view all the monitors you have. Whether you're a person that has one monitor, or you're Mr. Tybox 123 and have 6 monitors, they'll all show up and you can just kind of pan between them. Very nice application. And the cherry on top, it's free. So you really have nothing to lose with trying it. Very powerful app, and like I said, I found myself using this darn near every day. I mean, I find that, while say at school in class, I'm like, oh, that came out. Yeah, I want to go, download that video from iTunes, or start a big download. I could be at school, and by the time I get home, it'll be downloaded already because I started the download when I was still at school. So
I'm actually
definitely
downloading it as we speak because
there you
ever
go.
since the whole thing about different VNC clients being taken offline or being made into something that they can actually make a gigantic profit on, Log Me In was my VNC of choice, and Terrell's, and it was the same thing. Everything that you have said is every single reason why I was using it. Being able to start a huge download. I'm at work. I'm like, man, I'm going to be here 10 hours. Click, and then I'm starting that 17 gig file, and I get home and it's done. Instead of sitting here and you're like, all right, well, I'll go upstairs and maybe watch some TV or something. So yeah, you can start very big downloads and things like that. And it saved my butt before, being able to send myself a file that was on my computer to me, and I basically emailed it to myself to be able to get that document. It saved my life when I was out on a job out of town. And yeah, that like I said, I'm downloading it as I speak. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be using that as well. There's also a $14.99 version. Do you know anything about the Pro version?
I actually don't. I didn't know that existed.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, apparently, there's
I'm
probably
not
just
sure
more
what that
features and
brings.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, but I
very
mean,
very
this
nice tech
is
to it though.
you could connect to I'm not sure about Linux, but I know for a fact that both Windows and Mac are supported fully. So kind of an all-in-one, right out of the box VNC application. So
Nice.
I will look into that Pro version though, and I might let you guys know next show, or a blog post or something. Or if you're really feeling ambitious, Google's your buddy. But thank you very much for your tech treat, Dante. There you guys go. There's episode 22 in the bag. Thank you guys very much for watching. Dante, we gave a little plug to your YouTube channel, but in case the nice people forgot, go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on youtube.com/Dante D. Harris for all your different unboxings and tutorial videos that I'm going to be having. I've actually got another video that I'm getting ready to upload here, another upgrade video for the Mac Pro actually, and you can find all kinds of things. I mean, we're going to have just reviews, opinions, and things like that on different subjects. And of course, you guys can find me here on Tech Habit Weekly with, of course, Bob CPU Kid Roach, and of course, you guys can find me at twitter.com at KC Nightmare. And yeah, I think it's a good deal. And of course, everyone knows where to find Bob for his Hackintosh tutorials and live builds and customer orders and things like that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Tech Habit Weekly episode 22. We'll see you in the next video.